Boy, I would love to vote, but I can't because we poor black folk, we don't know where to find one of them fancy IDs they use. And I spend all my days wondering, where do I get me one of them identifications? I want one like the white man has, the Department of Motor Vehicles. Well, hot damn, where do I find the Department of Motor Vehicles? Because I don't know where to look. I can't look on the internet because I'm just a black boy, which means I'm just too stupid. I mean, that is how liberals view black folks. Now, the president gave a speech in Tampa, Florida. That's why we're talking about this. In the speech, he touched on the insane fact that you need an ID to pretty much do anything in life. But when it comes to voting and picking the next leader of the free world, you can just show up and pretend to be anyone. You can show up and say, "Hi, I'm Susie Schmagegi, and I'm here to cast my vote for my favorite Democrat."
You know, if you go out and you want to buy groceries, you need a picture on a card. You need ID. You go out and you want to buy anything, you need ID and you need your picture. In this country, the only time you don't need it, in many cases, is when you want to vote for a president, when you want to vote for a senator, when you want to vote for a governor or a congressman. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but what's even crazier is what the media took away from that quote. It was the groceries. Jim Acosta says, well, Trump out of touch here. You don't need an ID to buy groceries. Yeah, well, as a black guy, I can confidently say I've been carded multiple times at the grocery store, whether it's to buy adult beverages or whether it's because my bill was a couple $100. They wanted to make sure the credit card I was using actually belonged to me. So it might be time for you to check your white privilege, Jimbo. Or it might just be, I don't know, liberal privilege, because actually liberals have convinced me. They've tried to convince me. The only reason they do that, they card me at the grocery store, is because I'm black and the cashier must be a racist. But I'm actually told by white people this doesn't just happen to black people. It happens to a lot of people. So if it's not white privilege, it's liberal privilege, but you just need to maybe get in touch with some regular folks, Jim, who need to show ID at the store because their big mugs aren't all over the screen. You, sir, are the one who is out of touch. In fact, lots of people in the media are out of touch. And are you surprised by that? The gender fluid Valley Girls, I actually have no proof that they're gender fluid. I just assume everyone at BuzzFeed is gender fluid. But the Valley Girls, I'll call them at BuzzFeed, say, so, has anyone ever been carded trying to buy a milk? Well, if you use a credit card or you use a check or you buy a lot of milk, then yes. I mean, these millennials, they don't have any families or any money. Just wait until grocery shopping consists of having to buy more than just one carton of milk. Now, author Jeffrey Vagel wrote, this tells us at least two things. First, it confirms that Trump has no idea how grocery shopping works. Second, what the hell does that have to do with enfranchisement? Well, it's funny that you bring up the enfranchisement issue, i.e. the right to vote, because liberals, their whole argument for why you shouldn't have to show ID at the voting booth is because they have this insane notion in their heads that black people, oh yeah, we're just too stupid to get IDs. Watch.
Because they're less likely to have state IDs.
Minority voters are less likely to have the kinds of IDs that have been described or required.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
You can always get IDs you do over the internet. Does that also make it difficult for black people in particular?
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
Do you think that's harder for black people to go online?
Well, I feel like they don't have the knowledge of how it works.
Yeah, we don't know how the internet works. We need smart white women to show ignorant black thug like me how internet works. Now, according to the Washington Post, quote, because minority voters tend to be Democrats, strict voter ID laws tilt the primary electorate dramatically. By instituting strict voter ID laws, states can alter the electorate and shift outcomes, oh no, towards those on the right. Where these laws are enacted, the influence of Democrats and liberals wanes and the power of Republicans grows. That is their worst nightmare. Unsurprisingly, they write, the strict ID laws are passed almost exclusively by Republican legislatures. Okay. So first of all, they are admitting that the reason you hate voter ID laws is because you want the elections to lean heavily Democrat. You're admitting that. And yes, unfortunately, it is true that minorities do tend to vote Democrat, but that doesn't mean that that we don't have IDs. I mean, you assume if you institute a strict voter ID law, black people won't show up because they don't have IDs? I mean, it's all a myth. I promise you, we have IDs. It is basically impossible to function in the United States without an ID. If you got a job, you have to show an ID. Remember that awful I-9 form where they make you show like 9 IDs? You need an ID to buy stuff. If you have a credit card, you need an ID. A car, you need an ID. Medicine, ID. A bank account, you need an ID. All sorts of other things you cannot do without an ID. I mean, really, how do black people function in society? How do they do all that stuff? Oh yeah, that's right, with our damn IDs. I lived in Burlington for a year, Burlington, Vermont, and you know, it's insane. They're all crazy white liberals up there. And so I had to register an address change at a government office before voting. And this poor woman at the desk, she looks at me and I need to prove residency. She looks at me and she felt so awful. She was like, I'm so sorry. I have to ask you for a driver's license. Do you have one? I mean, yikes, I'm really sorry, but I just have to ask. I was like, calm down, lady. Of course I have one. It's a driver's license. I mean, seriously, the left has convinced everyone that people like me, we do not have IDs because we're apparently too stupid to find out where to get one. I mean, it is the most insulting thing in the world. And even Vox admits, yeah, this argument about blacks not having IDs is kind of BS. They cite a major study that finds that voter ID laws hurt minorities isn't standing up well under scrutiny. And the study finds that there is no evidence in the analyzed data that voter ID laws have a statistically significant impact on voter turnout. So when that argument doesn't hold up, then they say, oh, well, it's about the old people, you know, because old people, they don't drive, so they can't get an ID. Really? Then how do they plan to get to the polls? Also, you don't need to go all the way to a DMV. You can get a valid government ID at a city hall, at municipal headquarters. Any photo ID certified by government will work, but you should not be allowed to just show up at the polls and pretend to be whomever you want and then vote. It's the most reasonable argument in the world, voter ID laws, but for some reason, we're in this like weird space where we have to pretend this is a controversial issue. The person that Democrats are describing who can't get an ID is like a 100-year-old man who lives 1,000 miles away from civilization, doesn't drink, doesn't drive, doesn't have a job, doesn't have a home, doesn't take any medicine, doesn't shop for groceries, doesn't have a bank account. This person does not exist. Let's cut the nonsense, because we all know the whole reason liberals hate voter ID laws is one, because they want to use them as a sloppy excuse to paint the Republicans as racist. I mean, we're the racists. You heard how those people talked about black people. These kinds of people don't know where to get an ID. Oh yeah, and yet conservatives are the racists. All right. But more importantly, they do it because they want illegal aliens to be able to vote Democrat. If illegal aliens voted Republicans, you know as well as I do, Democrats would ship them the hell out of this country so fast you couldn't even blink. But because illegals vote for Democrats, they worry about losing their precious illegal alien vote. Hillary Clinton, she got 800,000 votes from non-citizens, according to a study. When I won the popular vote, she snarls. Yeah, you had illegal aliens helping you, idiot. The Dems, they love their illegals because illegals, they vote Democrat. That's the whole reason they're fighting for them, and it is the biggest reason they don't want you to show up to the polls and show ID. But if you want to stop foreign interference in our elections, you can start by checking for IDs at the ballot box.